I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and I welcome everybody that's here in person and who are zooming in. The first item on the agenda tonight is the approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
I will second it.
Okay, so motion by Jeff, seconded by Andy. Is there any discussion on the agenda? No. Hearing none, all in favor of approving it, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All yes, thank you. Mr. Ellis, communications.
There's one part that I want to bring up during communications, and that was a communication that was sent out on behalf of the district. We did kind of a good news postcard to all our constituents and stakeholders, just to talk about some of the work that we did last year and to highlight those positive things that we did for our students and that our leaders really advocated for to happen for our kids.
Great, thank you. Yes, Jess or Andy, did you have anything to add?
No.
Okay.
No, ma'am.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the protocol for addressing the board. And let me grab my paper here. As you know, this is the time of the meeting when we welcome public input into our meeting. We do ask that if you are presenting to the board, that you try to sign in prior to the board meeting. It's a little more difficult with all of the Zoom, but the way to overcome that would be to go ahead and call Heidi Chapman, Matt's assistant, in advance. However, I will take people that would like to talk. I will take that at this time also. Please remember to state your name and spell your last name for our records. Do not reflect adversely on the political or economic view, ethnic background, character, or motives of any individual. And do keep your comments concise, non-emotional, and brief. We usually allow 2 minutes per person. So the way we have done it is if there's someone in the audience that would like to comment, that is in the Zoom audience that would like to comment, if you would just unmute your mic and I'll acknowledge you from that. I'm going to start here though in the building. Welcome. Does anybody like to address the board at this time? Any of our visitors? Okay. All right. So Sean, if you'll help me, we're going to look for people that are zooming in. And I don't show anybody. Pardon me? Okay. All right. All right. We'll move right along then. Thank you very much. And let me set this aside. Okay. Next item on the agenda is information items. Our first information item is conditional certificate notification for 21-22 school year.
So we've done these in the past. We have quite a few teachers that are in normally masters in teaching programs that are working on getting their full teacher certification. The nice thing about a conditional certificate, there are some conditions that have to meet, like being in a program. They might have an exceptional amount of experience in a certain area, or one of those indicators that they're able to teach. It's considered their regular certification. So there's no special conditions. There's nothing we have to do like for a special ed teacher, having someone else write IEPs or anything like that. What I will say about this list, which we submitted last week, the teacher at the top, Vivian Avila, I think you're going to see her resignation. She had a late resignation that we accepted. So you're going to see that she's from California and she gets to go back home. And then just today, the teacher at the very bottom, Selena Torres, indicated she is not coming to work for us. So other than that, everybody else is good to go. And it is definitely a sign of how the times with so many people with conditional certificates. But I think in the district, we look for people that are great with kids, that want to work with kids and are willing to work hard. And so we've gotten some really great folks through this route.
Okay. Great. Any questions? Thank you, Deanna. Moving along to discussion items, the kiosk updates.
So this is from last meeting. After the last meeting, the board asked me to really talk with our building leaders and discuss what that might look like if we were to purchase the technology to upload and have those pictures at the new building. I asked Rick Follett, Kevin Lusk, and Brian Bailey to meet. They came up with a list of things that they would like to put on there. And we'd like to begin that process as soon as we could. We do have an electrical outlet in the high school that's in the entranceway that would be perfect to hang that. We're looking at a wall hanging kiosk as opposed to kind of a freestanding one or one that's in a booth. We think that hanging it on the wall would probably look best. And as people walked in, it would gain their attention and allow them to use it. So I want to represent that information to the board and kind of feel out what the board wants to see as a future direction.
Well, thank you. A week ago, Jess and I both zoomed into a meeting that Kevin Lusk and Brian Bailey pulled together with the representative from the company that will be installing this. And I was very, very, very impressed. The different ideas of what we can load and how we can efficiently load that information was truly amazing. I think it's going to be a great communication tool. Not only would you be able to walk into the high school and see the information, use the information on the board that's set up there, but people can also remotely, there'll be a link on our district page where they can go in and they can do all the searching that they want right from their home. And so it's pretty exciting. One of the things that really excited me was that there's a company that for $30 a yearbook, they will copy the whole yearbook and put it on the system. So if I wanted to find out, like my son, Jeremy Douglas, graduated in '93, and I could just type in his name, Jeremy Douglas, and it would bring up every page or every location where his name appears. I just thought, wow, that's going to be great for families to use. And it maintains the integrity of our pictures on the walls. Those pictures on the walls will be scanned into that system. And it's just really exciting. Jess, what would you like to add?
I agree with everything you said. The presentation was really beneficial to see the capabilities that we'll have with it. And for the price, I think it's a great deal. It's a really good investment. And I think does continue more than just the photo composites, but like you said, scanning in the yearbooks and just so many other options we can do with the academics and the trophies and just really honoring all of our alumni from the past all the way through to the future. So I think it's a really good option.
Great. Exciting. Thank you. Andy, did you have anything you wanted to contribute to that?
No, ma'am, I'm good. I listened to what you and Jess had to say prior to this, and I think it is going to be a heck of a nice deal to have them scan them in for us. I don't think we could possibly get a better price. So
Great. Okay, thank you. Next item, we move into reports. So the first is Assistant Superintendent's report for curriculum and instruction. Deanna.
So I left at your station the Prosser School District Instructional Materials Review Cycle. Matt asked me to add cost estimates, and these are estimates. I tried to estimate high. When I started in this role as assistant superintendent, we had not adopted new curriculum other than some little pieces here or there for about 12 years, maybe a little longer. So we have some materials that are quite antiquated. We were in the process of adopting 612 science and the arts in 2021 when we got shut down for COVID. And so at that time, we suspended that just because it's just like we couldn't visit schools. We couldn't see what other schools were doing. We couldn't have people come in person to see materials. So we are going to be restarting that to finish science and the arts, which was really scheduled to be finished at the end of 1920 or the beginning of 2021. And we have social studies, and because of our really pressing need to make adjustments in our K-5 ELA curriculum in our reading program, we have moved that up to this year. It's quite expensive. That's probably the most expensive curriculum if that was the one that happened to be selected. It's super materials intensive because of all the books and there's so much stuff versus a high school history student license for a book, if it's online, might be $25. So it is very expensive. And then we would do secondary next year. You can see on the back, there's quite a lot of blanks. I'll be meeting with the District Instructional Materials Committee probably in September after we get into school a few weeks so that we can fill this out for their project at least 5 years.
Okay, so I know that there's a long process
Mhm.
to adopt any new curriculum,
Correct.
including an opportunity for the community to
Yep.
review it, for staff input, for board, and actually, this is something that has to be approved by the board. Is that correct? Okay.
All of the core curriculum is required to be approved by the board. A non-core curriculum might be like world language. World language can be approved by the Instructional Materials Committee, but we'd still bring it to the board so that they knew about it. It is about a year-long process for the most part. We have had some that have taken as long as 2 years because we haven't felt like we either had, that was one of the things with science. At the end of that first year when we were doing it in 1920 for the high school, we were like basically just going to stop because there wasn't anything. High school curriculums, especially something like science and math, take a super long time for them to develop. And so they're so intensive and there's so much to them. There really wasn't anything. There's starting to be some curriculums that are coming on the market, but even with that, they're not necessarily scoring really well as far as what we would look for our students. But there are some good things out there. Since we adopted the elementary math, there's quite a few new curriculums that have come on the market. A couple of them are good and a lot of them aren't. So it's a big process. So we'll start with meetings, and actually because we're trying to do so much this year because we really fell behind, the principals are going to help me. Eric's going to help me because we'll be doing a lot of reviewing materials, meeting with our group. There'll be committees that have to be appointed, which include, administrators, maybe sometimes it's coaches, also coaches, teachers, and parents are all part of those committees. So lots to do this year. And there's just a lot for us to do over the next several years to get where we have solid curriculum materials that are consistent across grade levels and consistent across teachers, classrooms, and buildings so that we don't have different things happening in the same grade level for the same content.
Okay. So you're going to be busy.
We are, but
Okay.
I was like, oh, take a big gulp when I look at this, but it's so important. I think that we do it and get these in the hands of our teachers for our kids. We're going to make it happen.
I mean, it's a small dollar amount, but under the column supporting an elective curriculum, physical education that's a small amount, but why is that not a core curriculum since that is a requirement of the state?
It probably would be in core. It's probably in the wrong column. Physical education, a lot of times the cost in that is a lot of times more around things, which they already have a lot of things. So it isn't a super expensive one, but you're right, it would be in core.
Okay.
Sometimes it's theirs is just a little bit different. It isn't quite as challenging as maybe doing a big ELA adoption, but
Okay.
still takes a lot of effort to make sure we do a good job. But I would agree with that it should be in the other column.
And I'm just assuming here, but I'm assuming that the late exit bilingual would be covered from the bilingual grant?
It depends because when we talk about those classes, so like our dual language, that's their core class. So we actually use basic ed costs. We also use bilingual. It's one of those ones where we put together a lot of different pots to try to
Okay.
cover the needs.
So you've got late exit under the supporting curriculum also. That really needs to be over underneath the core curriculum because for a large portion of our children, that is their core.
Well, and actually what it will be, most likely will just be it'll be part of the ELA adoption. It will address both the English as well as the biliteracy students.
Okay, so that'll
So,
get moved.
I
over
was
too.
going to delete it, but we have been doing that. So I didn't want to do that yet, but
Okay.
that is something, it needs to be part of the core because that is their core.
Okay.
And it's the same thing when we talk about special education, when we're talking about, reading, writing and math,
Mhm.
they also are part of that. It's not separate. They might have some separate materials or separate instructional materials or support materials, but it needs to be a part of that adoption, not just an
Solely
afterthought.
out of the program. Okay. All right.
Just as a consideration on that. And you were around for part of this. I think the last time the district took a route like this was under Dr. Lloyd Waite's leadership. And so the fear of that was also spent, that goes along with that is spending and overspending.
Mhm.
And so that was one of those things as well that the district confronted during that time period. And so just to be careful with, as we do those adoptions to evaluate what are the resources we want to put towards that. So it's been just like our buildings, it's been long overdue within the district, but really being strategic about how we build that.
Right.
So.
Unless
right.
there's questions, I have one more thing.
Okay.
I think Matt will probably forward it to the board in his weekly update, but there is a new policy that's going to be required in 21-22 on academic acceleration. I wanted you to see it before I brought it, but it'll be on the next board agenda. It's required that we put it in place in the year 21-22. It's really around if a student scores at a advanced level, then we have to automatically move them into the higher track, not like go, well, what do you want to do? Like, unless I guess a parent or a student could refuse it, but if they score a 4 on the SBA in math, then they should go into a higher track in math.
All right, Andy, did you have any questions?
No, ma'am. I'm
Okay.
good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, moving along to the Assistant Superintendent's report for business and operations. Craig.
Hello there. So we have the June financials. Again, just a reminder, the school year for accounting purposes is September through August. So we still have 2 months of accounting after this June report. And you'll notice, at least on the very first page where it is the budget status report, it shows the budget and then the actual for the month of June and then the actual for the year to date, which would be September through June. And for the month of June, our fund balance dropped 1.1 million, which is a big number, but
But we expected it.
it's expected.
Yeah.
A couple of pages in where there's all the numbers for the various programs, and it shows at the top the percentage of apportionment that the state is giving us, and in June is only 6%. So it's expected our cash flow goes up and down. July is actually the highest apportionment month, 12.5%, and then August is 10. So I'm hopeful, we're still accounting for things during the end of the school year, and but I'm hopeful that we'll be able to maintain that fund balance, of around a $4 million account. That would be very good news for us. We had a pretty substantial budget reduction, but to be honest, due to COVID and some of the ESSER dollars, funding and so forth, our costs are way low as far as a percentage compared to the other 2 years before that. For example, the the 2021 school year, our expenditures are roughly 75% of the budget. And the previous 2 years at this time through June, 1920 was 80%, and 1819 was 81%. So I mean, 5%
It's a lot.
drop, on a $33 million budget is a big number.
Are you anticipating that? I know you had pre-warned us that June was going to be huge for expenditures coming in.
Yep.
Things that you knew were built, were you were expecting. July and August, do we have any of those big pushes for those?
I do know the Career and Technical Ed program is going to have a big expenditure. I think it was in July for the seats at the Skill Center.
Okay. Good.
So that'll be a big, $200,000 number. But we're finishing up the grants, and of course, if we spend money in the grants, then we get reimbursed the next month. But so I know that June had. I wrote the number down, about $225,000 that we spent in June to complete the special ed technology grant.
Right.
So that was a big number. You'll see if you compare the MSOC, the materials from the previous month, it's about $300,000 increase, but that's probably the majority of it. So, so that's not expected and unexpected. So again, maybe just want to talk a little bit about the timing. Fortunately or unfortunately, we'll have 3 school board meetings in a row. So next Wednesday, we're planning on the meeting to start at 6 o'clock with a special board meeting to have a brief conversation about and presentation about the budget extension for the Capital Projects Fund. And then the board I'd ask the board to pass a resolution to formally extend that fund. And I'm not sure, if the board wants to have other action items, we certainly could, since it is a special board meeting. But I mean, the majority, I also will be presenting the 21-22 school year budget.
We've got a little time to decide that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Then I know last board meeting you asked Peggy about the public records. So we've given you a log which lists all the public records since July of 2019.
Right.
And at the bottom of the second page, we have estimated staff time and attorney fees to respond to these public records. And I certainly can break that out. I guess my thought would be, there's in essence the beginning number. We'll just increase that number on staff time and attorney fees each month as we receive the attorney bills and respond again. And we're attempting to do our best to log the staff time. Of course, that's not depends on how you want to look at it. It is a cost, but it's not something that we're actually spending money on. But there's other things that they're not being done because of the amount of time taken to respond to those records.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do appreciate the information, and I'm glad that it's going to be once a month on the board.
Yep.
I
We talked
want to
about
be able to
the
discuss it
first.
because quite honestly, for those that are not aware, this is one of those additional costs that a district picks up that isn't planned for. So it's hard to budget for it. So it has to come out of basic education, which for me means it's coming directly away from supporting instruction for children. And so I really want to know why or where that's coming from. I also would prefer, beginning from this point forward, like you said, to have a cleaner picture. I would like to have additional column or 2 columns that would show man hours for the district to complete, and also attorney costs that are directly related to
Right.
that request.
Yep.
Because, yeah, we've got to get a handle on the public records request.
Yep.
Gotten a
That's all.
little,
That's all that I have.
yeah,
for you
a
tonight.
little out of control, it looks like. All right, thank you.
Welcome.
Jess or Andy, do you have any comments on the public records request?
It's a very big number.
Huge. For those in the audience, it's $184,680. That's a lot of money coming away from kids. Okay. Andy, did you have anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Craig. Moving on to superintendent's report, Mr. Ellis.
So the first thing I wanted to touch on was tours. We've been able to give tours at the new high school facility. We've given over 200 people tours. The second thing was our mailer. We've received some really positive, kind of positive feedback on that. And so that may become something that's a fixture in the coming months or coming years. CSG would like to begin conversations again. The last time we had CSG, we had Dax Logston talk about possibly funding a project at Art Fiker in ways we could do that through the ESSER dollars or the CARES Act dollars that we were given. They would like to reboot that conversation and start talking about Whitstrand. The next proposed meeting was on August 19th at 10 o'clock. So I'm not sure where we'll hold it. Ed Champagne was on it, and they're looking at kind of reconvening and having conversations about that. So bargaining, we've been bargaining. Craig and I have been bargaining with the PSC. Deanna and I have been bargaining with the PEA. We still have the Principals Association open, as well as the admin assistants, and I think the secretaries as well. And so we'll be looking for resolutions on that. We're close with some unions, and we're further away with others. So if you've been following the news, kind of the current direction that we're anticipating is that there will be universal masking requirements for students and staff this coming school year. With that being said, we'll still be able to have all kids on campus and maneuver that much like we did in the spring of last year, how we brought kids back, but then there were some safety kind of precautionary things that we were doing to mitigate any spread. So with that being said, our nurses have been hard at work. We've already put in orders for PPE, somewhere in the ballpark of $25,000 to $30,000, which will get us started for the year and allow us to have masks, hand sanitizers, a lot of the things that we had on campus available for staff and students next year. Safety and security, that's been a conversation. There's a meeting tomorrow with a lot of state agencies that was kind of prompted by the Education Equity Coalition. I was able to speak with their director about kind of the means and the ends of that meeting. And she was pretty candid. She said, you know, we're supportive of social emotional learning programs, but really it becomes a request from the state about is there a different way to do this, and investigating that. I expressed to her that the district is confident with the direction it's went in safety and security. In fact, one of the highlights on our postcard was the fact that Glenn Thompson brought in, it was close to $100,000 grant for new radios, and they've been working at doing that. So just to put it on the board's radar, that we're gonna probably want to loop back at some point in time and have that discussion and kind of close that discussion again, and or to have an ongoing discussion like we did prior to COVID around safety and security. Carissa is back on campus, and in Craig's department, and Heidi just finished her first month with the district. And so we're off to some really great starts, and having Carissa back is really great. And then I know that the people in our office have been really working hard, as probably as well as Deanna's office, around getting the school year up and started. Becky Moore has been doing a fantastic job Heidi and Kim are helping try and plan a staff luncheon or a kickoff for the teachers. So our central office people are really, really working hard and trying to plan a great start to the year.
Thank you.
Any questions, comments, or concerns about any of that information?
I think we're okay then.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Oh, our next tours, sorry. Next tour is Thursday and Friday. So tomorrow and Friday at 9 o'clock.
Mhm.
If you're interested, you can go ahead and get on the website and request a space for that.
So board member reports, Jocelyn.
So I was going to talk about the kiosk presentation, just that I thought it was really well done and I look forward to seeing that in the building. I did attend the PCTC play and thought that was excellent. Hannah did a good job. All the kids that were participating did a really good job. So that was fun. Before this meeting, I was actually at the Prosser Leadership graduation for the 2020-2021 class because it took them 2 years to get through leadership because of COVID. And with this class finishing, there are 73 Prosser community members who have gone through that program. So it's a pretty good program. And I'm happy to say I'm an alum of that. And I know Mr. Ellis is. And tonight graduated Brian Bailey and Michael Denny. Just keep putting more and more people through that, which I think is great for not only the individual, but the community at large. And then for the tours, I know the Rotarian group for next Thursday is really excited and growing. I think we're over 30 that will be attending that tour from Rotary for our lunch meeting.
Great. Andy, how?
Yes, ma'am. I just want to say I was thrilled to have the opportunity to lead one of the tours through last week, one of the evening tours through the school. And on the side note, I owe Mr. Bailey a huge thank you for covering for me. I had a grandson's birthday party that I had forgotten about. So, but no, it was really nice to see the people show up and everybody seemed to really love it. Thank you.
And then for myself, I'm going to be leading a tour on the 20th. I've already got about 20 people that have contacted me that are excited to finally be able to get into the building. And one thing I've been asked, Mr. Ellis, is if there's a possibility for a video tour of the high school. So, you know, it could be anybody, couldn't be me because I'm not good with cameras, but it could be just about anybody that would take and videotape the tour going through the building, put it on our website so that other community members that may not be able to make it into a tour this month would have an opportunity to kind of live that tour, walk that tour with a group. So I would like to add that. And I'm just going to take it that you're going to fly with that one, okay?
We'll get either, really promptly get some pictures or a video or something.
Matt, I think
online.
that they're supposed to do a final drone fly through that professional company. So we might want to check with Dan Purfoy about that. Okay.
One of the other things is that was suggested to us, and this came from Sue Bray actually, that as we start to get classrooms and things set up, so it has more of a school feel to it. I know that they were trying to get the weight room set up and all those things, and so to really capture that for our community, so it kind of feels more school-ish. There's still a lot of unboxing taking place,
Right.
and that's exciting. But
Thank you. The good news postcard was a delight. To find that in my mailbox this last week. Thank you very much. And I've received quite a bit of positive feedback from the community members about the high school and the high school tours. And most of it has been, wow, we have something that will be part of our community for many, many, many years to come. They thought it was well designed and well put together. So thank you. Okay. Moving on to students. Monse, you were the first one here. Would you like to go first tonight?
First off, I'd just like to say thank you for letting us play in the gym. That scrimmage that we had a lot of fun. My team didn't win, but it's okay. We still had a lot of fun. We also, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to share this or not, but we have a couple tours coming up for like seniors as well, and juniors, sophomores, and freshmen for the school in not this next week, but the week before we start school as well. And we also have community days that you guys could come and tour the school as well.
Okay, great.
I just passed that praise back on to Kevin Lusk, who's on the meeting, and trying to make it special for you guys, having Gatorades and doing some tours in tandem with that. I hope it was a valuable experience and you guys got excited.
Okay, Hannah.
So I recently had the opportunity 2 weeks previous to attend the Hobie World Youth Leadership Conference in Dallas, Texas. It was incredible. I had the opportunity to explore my identity, my values, and get to be the person I've always aspired to be. And I hope to bring that into this next school year moving forward.
Andres?
I do have a question regarding because I know we're putting on open houses for the community members and the classes. And one of the things that I was talking about with Prosper Thrive or Mustang Thrive was the possibility of having some kind of like a stand or a table or something where we could advertise our work or just the club in general. But I'm not sure if that could also be opened up to just any other clubs as well. I'm not sure how the tours are going to look exactly for those open houses, but that was just something that we were talking about. And but I'm not sure what if that would be a possibility or something.
We're still working on constructing that and what that will look like. The whole pandemic and COVID outbreaks and different variants of and things like that, it's been a very fluid process and information has changed as we go along. So we're working on constructing that and what that will look like. If we have to break it down by alphabet and we say these students and their families welcome in, and then on a different date do it differently or do it by times. The biggest piece there is, of course, trying to put in precautions so there isn't a spread and kids can come to school and we don't have teachers sick and things like that. But absolutely, we have a great partnership with Thrive. Since I've been here, it's been very strong. And so if you wanted to have a booth or something up, I would I'd really, yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Andres. Great reports. Thank you very much. We're on to the consent agenda. And I would entertain a motion of the certificated personnel has been revised and the classified personnel have been revised. So keep that in mind. But I would entertain a motion to approve the revised consent agenda as presented.
Move to approve the consent agenda items.
Motion by
I will
Jess,
second it.
seconded by Andy. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the agenda, please, the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Oh, yes.
Aye.
Under action items, we have emergency certificates for 21-22.
Vouchers first.
Oh, it's missing from mine. I'm missing A. Oh, vouchers. Yep. Okay, that's pretty important. I'd entertain a motion to approve the vouchers as presented.
Move to approve the vouchers.
I will second it.
Okay, motion by Jess, seconded by Andy. All in favor? Oh, is there any question about any of the vouchers? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All yes, thank you. All right, thank you very much for bringing that to my attention. And then B is emergency certificates for 21-22. That would be Deanna.
So we obviously still have a couple of open positions now with some recent changes. But these three folks that are on this list have already either worked for us in summer school or are our employees. Tatiana's been teaching for us for, she taught all last year. Beth Mulberry was at the high school, was a special education aide. She's the one that had the highest growth during summer school in her math class. So they'll be working for us. All of them will, Jessica's literally just waiting. She's close. She needs she'll get her final certificate, and the others will get theirs during the school year. So these do have to be approved because they're emergency.
All right.
Move to approve the emergency certificates.
Motion by Jess.
I will second it.
Seconded by Andy. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the emergency certificates for 21-22 as presented, please signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you very much. All yes. Well, that brings us to an adjournment. But before we formally adjourn, I want to say that our next meetings, for the next 2 Wednesdays, we have board meetings. Next Wednesday, the 18th, our meeting will start at 6 o'clock. And these will both be related to budget, the earliness of them, okay? And then our next regular board meeting is scheduled for the 25th, but we're going to start at 6:30 that night, also to take care of some budget stuff. So having all that out there, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Jess,
I will second it.
seconded by Andy. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Have a great evening.